we celebrate and we honor the women who made history throughout history, who saw what could be unburdened by what had been.
Kamala Harris's way with words is just one of the few reasons even staunch liberal newspapers now say the quiet part out loud. That includes Jeff Jacoby, columnist for the Boston Globe. Writers should replace Kamala Harris really be unthinkable. For nearly all her time as vice president, Harris has been underwater in opinion polls, approval ratings that have hovered in the high 30s or low 40s. When she has drawn headlines, mostly been because of disarray and dysfunction among her staff. And the vice president's office has been described as not a healthy environment and rife with dissent, or because of her frequently inarticulate and cringe-making remarks in interviews and before audiences. And in the area of public policy and legislation, her achievements have been close to non-existent. Kurt Bardella is here, former Hill staffer, now Democratic consultant. Scott Tranter, head of data science for our partners at Decision Desk HQ. All right, Kurt, I'm going to flip this around on you here. Let's imagine a world where tomorrow Kamala Harris comes out and gives a speech, and she says, you know what, I want to spend more time with my family. I'm going to go on a couple of corporate boards. I'm going to go be the chancellor of a university. I'm officially removing my name from contention for the 2024 race. Is there a single Democrat who would call her and try to talk her out of that decision?
I actually think there would be, Leland, because, again, I think, these conversations are fun and hypothetical, and we like to have fun with them, and that's what we're here for, right? But I do think that that the polls miss and these articles miss the value that she does bring, which is why she was put on the ticket in the first place. And you cannot ignore, particularly amongst the Democratic Party base and turnout, the impact that she could have on communities of color, on the female vote, especially when you're up against potentially a repeat of what we had in 2020. And it's kind of the thing, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you're going to face potentially the same person you faced last time and you won, why would you mess with that?
Right. Well, look, nothing wins like winning, okay? She's also the same person who didn't even get to Iowa because she was so unpopular with those same communities you talked about. But this brings up the issue of polling, right? President Biden's approval rating now near a record low. Kamala Harris's approval rating now near a record low. Scott Tranter, to you, the pollster person, you got two of the most unpopular people in politics right now on the Democratic ticket, yet it's a 50-50 toss-up against Trump or DeSantis. The last time I can think a VP candidate mattered in the negative was Sarah Palin. The time before that, probably Dan Quayle. Does that apply to her? Can you get a couple of points out of who is your VP, especially with Joe Biden being as old as he is?
Sure. I mean, that's what everyone's looking at. Empirically, though, the most recent polling data we have is out of Emerson. And when they polled the Democratic primary electorate, they looked at all the different potential possibilities. And while VP Harris does have low approval ratings, among the Democratic primary electorate, she leads. Now, who's in second and third? You look at Amy Klobuchar, you look at Elizabeth Warren, you look at some of these other people. They're behind her, but not that far behind. And so empirically, she's still the top choice, despite her potentially being a drag on the top of the ticket with her low approval ratings.
Yeah, at the same time, also, this isn't about Democratic primary voters. It's about general election swing voters who are looking at, if they're re-electing President Biden, electing by far the oldest person ever elected to the White House. Suddenly, the number two person becomes a lot more important. We came up with a couple of ideas. Some of these were in the article, some of them weren't. Karen Bass, Susan Rice, Marine General, and Val Demings, Lorna Malloch. But the one that I keep putting up, Kurt, and thinking about and talking about over and over is Michelle Obama. You replace Kamala Harris with Michelle Obama, Joe Biden wins in a walk-off home run, does he not?
I think if Michelle Obama were on any ticket, on either position, the Democrats would win with a walk-off home run, as you put it. I also think, though, that that's just never going to ever happen. And again, I go back to if we're playing the rerun of the last election, I still think that you just don't mess with that. Why would you change out the players when you've already won and could win again? And I think too, I look at the polling from where President Biden, where Vice President Harris was during the midterms, and there was all that conversation about President Biden having the lowest approval rating heading into a midterm election and what that could do. And it turned out it didn't matter. It didn't have any impact on what we saw happen in November. And again, I think that ultimately, and you kind of alluded to this, people vote for the top of the ticket. And especially when you're talking about the personalities of Biden and Trump. I just think that that's going to saturate everything, and that when people go to the polls in November of 2024, they're going to be voting for the top of the ticket one way or the other.
Thanks for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to subscribe. Click the red button to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.